Chattanooga Times Free Press has on its page one today a story about whether the Navy will charge Commander Tim White with abuse of his office as the post commander at the Naval and Marine Center along Amnicola Highway. The indications are that this federal department will not, though the people in charge of this effort, defending the law, the internal law of the Navy, are still weighing all their P's and Q's and shoving them around and trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. Their duty is, of course, to uphold the sense of integrity of the rules in the Navy, to make sure that everybody understands that these rules are not optional, and that they are to be adhered to by all strictly and scrupulously, there not being any higher rule than them. That's the duty of the JAG officers involved in this review. The story in the newspaper says that Governor Haslam, Bill Haslam, says, according to Andy Scher and Shelley Bradbury's lead, that though it's the U.S. Navy's call whether to charge Lieutenant Commander Tim White for using his own handgun to fire at Mohammed Abdulaziz, the governor believes most Americans wouldn't, quote, resent him for using his personal weapon. That's a very mild statement indeed. White has not been charged, and there, of course, have been rumors in the press online from former military man Alan West, a conservative columnist, and others, that something is pending. And as well, there should be, and so the problem is, should a man who you might say he exercised a constitutional right above and beyond his scope of duty as the installation commander, the installation commanding officer, the ICO, as he is called. He's the man in charge of all those there. These are men operating, though as part of the Marines and the Navy, they're operating in a civilian area, and we are not under occupation by the good people, and so it's right that they not be bristling firearms and loaded magazines and the like. We are not at war among any of the 50 states, though the federal people, the federal government, of course, is stirring wars all the time in the Mideast, and has just reached back to strike a hornet's nest by taking sides in the Syrian conflict. But here in our country, among the 50 countries that comprise the Federal Republic, there are no wars pending, none are in view, though we have a very dissatisfied group in the population, the Muslims, who see it as their duty to convert everyone to their very hardcore, hardline deity, or find some way of conveniently extinguishing them so that the land of the free and the home of the brave will be theirs. And there will not be the bother of free people governed by constitutions, governed by statutes, if you will, even governed by the very holy of holy, the Code of Federal Regulations. We can't have these disappear, of course, and have them replaced by Sharia law. But there are those who don't like these American systems of government, and view Christianity and the kind of pornographic consumerism of the West with equal disdain. And Mohammed Abdulaziz, a faithful martyr, taking it upon himself to make a stand, to make atonement for his private sins of drug addiction, debt, and other things which perhaps only his family members know about. Well, this is David Toulis, and our show is the David Toulis Show. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are the station in which you report and the world decides. We are a very high-tech company, very, very high-tech. We can run the station from our smartphones. It's really amazing that this place, with our we're a Saudi Daisy station, and with our studio a little further south, we can control things remotely by the great device of the smartphone. I have a regular dumb phone, but my partner in the business, Confederate Mike, who flies a particular banner in a little hallway that we have here, he can control everything. So we're here to serve the public. We have a charge to maintain our little bit of bandwidth, which is the one that you, my listener, are hearing now. That's 1240 on the amplified modulation wing of the spectrum. and we are here to serve you with what we hope is the best and most enlightening conversation. The French would call it bavardage, which is to say, kind of chit chat and other things to make you esteem your town better, and to help you find more fully, more amply your place in it. To identify, my goal is to identify with Chattanooga, though by training as an American, by culture, by university education, the like, I very often think globally, right? I think globally, I think nationally. And I'm trying to kind of repent from that habit of thought in which there's always a national narrative, and that's the one that matters, right? We're hearing a lot about Donald Trump and how he's trumping the other candidates in the Republican Party, and somehow if we attend to these analyses and these reports, we slip into this national narrative frame of mind. But we are here in Chattanooga, and so somehow I'm trying to figure out how do we think lococentrically, how do we come around to thinking, you might say, nougacentrically. And it's an effort of the spirit, it's an effort of the mind, and it goes against all the culture that you, my listener, have, and I readily admit, against my own culture. Though I have a background as a Swiss. My mother is from a very faraway place, Switzerland. My father from an even more alien place than Zurich. He's from Boston, and Boston, of course, where the Yankees are, and a very, very Roman Catholic part of the world. I would say is very much more different from my way of thinking now than my Swiss heritage. The Swiss are the people of peace, right? They are the people not just of Swiss cheese and Lindt chocolate and precisely created watches. They are the people of neutrality. They are the ones who espouse the great free market tradition of political non-intervention. And this whole question of intervention is one we will look at today. I have a lot on the agenda, and I'm not going to tell you what's coming up. Okay, I'm not going to tell you. You just have to kind of keep it here, and or hope that your pressing business of the day doesn't keep you too far away from your computer or your car radio. Now, we are online, by the way. If you are hearing us there, you can tell a friend that he can do the same, and that is hotnewstalkradio.com. And on your smartphone, if you go beyond the pulsing reach of our powerful 1,000-watt AM transmitter in Saudi Daisy, behind the post office, in that field, under the hill, right? If you go well past that pulsing radius, then you can pick us up on your smartphone. And for that, you just have to have the TuneIn Radio app, and just type in Hot News Talk Radio. And we are live on YouTube. And I do thank you if you are finding it convenient to meet me there and check on my bow tie. Well, Jeanette did approve of it's lunch. Make sure you put on your mental agenda to try Delia's. Delia's, the authentic Mexican restaurant in South Saudi Daisy, run by Maria Hernandez. You will enjoy her fine selection. She has the freshest ingredients in her tamales and her enchiladas and her quesadillas. If you happen to be a German visiting here, or maybe you've moved here to work for a year at the American Volkswagen branch, try this restaurant. It is the one to which Americans go to find out how life is south. Life gustatorially is south of the border. And it's, again, Delia's Authentic Mexican Restaurant. The special today is the taco platter number 28. It's $1 off. It's only $4.99. Mention our station. Mention David Toulis, possibly, if you can remember the name, and you'll get a free iced tea. And do thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. I wanted to talk a little bit about several things here that are kind of quick things. By the way, I have been taking a vacation as editor and writer, but the verve hit me this morning. I rise very early, by the way, to get prepared to come and chat with you. So I go to bed early, about 10 if I can. Last night I got the story read, Penrod Jasper, which is a Booth Tarkington novel, to my son, a chapter out of that, and then I immediately slumped into the Neverland, not getting around to David Stockman, in which I'm about on page 650 or so of his magnificent economic history. So I get up early, and this morning I said I have written. I've not written in a while. I've taken some time off. And so I launched a fresh effort with a story gathering several photographs from the past 2 days. We are in day 3 of a SAG day, a day that sags, the sky sags upon us. SAG is an acronym for stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, and we see it heavily in the skies above. Look up and annoy your children, annoy your wife, and look up and say, what are they doing today? Look at that. And you'll find long white plumes, which are said by the naysayers, right? The wise ones among us who know better, the environmentalists among us, the traditional Democrats. We're told that this is just water vapor, and these are just regular air traffic, just routine air traffic, and they're leaving water vapor, just like you leave when you take a walk outside on a cold day. You stream behind you a trail, right? A trail that goes for hundreds of feet, and just like that, right? That's what we have up there, but really there's something more to it, and it's part of President Obama and the American establishment's long war to control things. And the controls are two ways. There's a kind of self-contradictory mechanism in the national power. Part of it is secret. Part of it is legislative and executive. The story in the paper yesterday, page 4, the A section of the Times Free Press. By the way, the paper is just getting very thin. It's been thin for some years now, but I always look at it and I always want to see, what did the editors say is important. And rightly, the editors put on page A4, Obama ruled to compel steeper emission cuts. That's the headline. And so the feds crack down on industry. They crack down on production and the use of electricity, going to make it expensive if they can, by putting coal plants out of business, ones that are reached obsolescence. Right, we're not going to renew their permits, and they will be shut down, driving up the cost of energy. And the second paragraph says, in finalizing the unprecedented pollution controls, Obama was installing the core of his ambitious and controversial plan. Of course, the word controversial here means bold, right? To drastically reduce overall U.S. emissions as he works on to secure a legacy on fighting global warming. That's just kind of a thumbnail sketch of what you're supposed to understand is true, right? But that there is going to be a crackdown, an effort to deindustrialize, as only the brightest and the sharpest environmentalists want to have happen, right? The ones with the most foresight want to crack down the most aggressively. Meanwhile, emissions are pouring forth above, and these are called negative emissions. Now, the problem with coal is that, of course, it has sulfur, and it creates carbon monoxide, but also carbon dioxide, which, of course, we need to have for plants to breathe. Plants create oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. So your breath is not a pollutant, as our federal betters would suggest. It is an important, essential element of life on the planet. And while smoke is coming up and polluting, it's bad, right? It's bad, and it's black. Now it's a positive emission and therefore bad. Now the negative emission program is largely in secret, and it's an amazing story that I've written about for more than a year. It's a secret program which academia, the environmental scientists at Harvard and Leeds University and Cambridge and many other places, are urging a massive program, urging a massive pollution program that will counter the pollution caused by you, right? You and your use of your car and your use of electricity in your house from burning coal, from TVA. These are bad things. And so what we're seeing today is part of the counter program, right? It's Plan B. By some counts. Plan A, of course, is suppression of industry and humankind. Plan B is, well, if we can't get that to happen, if that effort is too slow, we will create the Iron Dome, the Sky Dome, the aerial plasma. And that's what we've had now for 2 days, and we're in the third day of aerial plasma, created aluminum is, especially at nanoparticulate size, is so light and so brilliant that it creates this haze over the world. The whole world is under a haze largely, and my essay points that out. Now, first, you have to get through many, many photographs in my gallery today. Go to Nuganomics.com. It's a website that of which I have charge. It's called Nuganomics.com, and that's because I cover the economy, right? That's my topic, is the dreary economy, which is really an exciting story about the marketplace. Really, the economy is to make you think it's dull and leave it to the experts. But in my argument, the argument of David Toulis here at Hot News Talk Radio, the argument is the economy is an exciting and riveting place for conflict between two forces. The forces of good, the marketplace, everyone serving everybody else by selling and producing and inventing, right, devising, cutting prices, etc. And the bad would be the good people. The good people really want to do well. They want to control. They want things to be right. They want everything to be rational, organized, planned. They can't stand the marketplace. To them, it's anarchy. It's uncontrollable. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. And so we have to have our Congress pass more rules and more ancillary regulations, which are the executive branch writing the law, effectively writing the law by regulation. And then, so it's conflict. Okay, so my website covers this topic. On that website today, on the top post, you'll find out what's going on over the skies of Chattanooga. The headline: jet trails muck skies over city. Obama targets smokestack. So the official pollution is going on strongly over Chattanooga, but its goal is to deflect the sun. And we have a much less sunlight reaching the ground now from the 1950s, according to an Israeli scientist who studied evaporation rates and found that the evaporation rates are remarkably reduced. Now, that the fact that we have the iron dome or the shiny plasma in the sky means that you're not getting enough sunlight for your vitamin D, is it, to process properly. You have to have sunlight to make your vitamin D active in your body. And so you're suffering malnutrition. And we have it almost, I'd say half of days we have the treatment, the aerial spraying, the aerosolizing of the sky, making it septic, right? It is a septic sky, kind of poisoned, kind of bitter. It's kind of a grit, right? A grit that's so tiny you can't feel it. You can't, if a nanoparticle of aluminum falls from the sky and lands on your skin, do you know what'll happen? It'll go right through. It'll go right through. If you inhale it, these particles will end up in the aluminum base in your skull, which, according to one scientist whose essay I reposted at Nuganomics.com, you face a trial of neurological damage. And we are a population mostly sick. Most people in America today, in the United States today, are sick. And they're sick because they believe big food. They are sick because they believe big media. And they reject local economy. They reject local food. They reject local solutions. And we have set ourselves up to have to reject local solutions. We have set ourselves up to understand that no solution can come from any individual. No family can have solutions. No block of people in a town and neighborhood can have solutions either. No, this is not possible. It cannot be done. We have only national solutions. And we've set ourselves up, being in national economy for decades now, to have that point of view. We can't really see our way out of it. And I understand that. You know, I have the same problem. I have the same temptation. It is a temptation to yield to that. And I'm asking God to give me insight as a Christian and as a deacon, right? I'm a deacon in the church, to not let the national theory, the national argument, persuade me from what Revelation shows me, by God's grace, is the right operation of a free society and a free culture. And we have in the attack that Officer Tim White tried to stop with his service weapon, we have a clash of civilizations. We have, on one hand, we have the gospel. We have grace, peace. We have amity, right? We've got the market. We have capitalism. We have, to each individual, internal reform, versus the other system. And there are two. The Mohammedan theory has a parallel one in American secular humanism, and that's just regular old progressivism, right? Progressivism and what's called Islam share many of the same premises, and it is that of warfare. It is that of coercion, of a kind of externalism. It operates on the externals of man and of culture. It can't get inside of people. It cannot reform them internally. It can't make them, let's just say, hate sin, right? Which is what the Christian theory espouses. It is concerned about the outward form of compulsion, of vertically integrated totalitarianism. It's 100% force-based, and that's what Tim White understood when Tim White drew his weapon illegally, right? He was taking a side in that clash of civilizations. I wonder what Sheriff Jim Hammond thinks about that conflict, that exchange of bullets.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
We've got a table here at Delia's and Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's and Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
News Talk 1240.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items. For Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. hotnewstalkradio.com and half off. Surf our site and ride the wave of savings.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingram, David Toulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. Donald Trump dominating the field of GOP presidential hopefuls ahead of debate night Thursday.
The latest Fox News poll has him up 15 percentage points since June, rising to 26%. Jeb Bush is next at 15. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker is down 6 points since last month at 9%. Ben Carson falls at 7%. Senator Ted Cruz and Mike Huckabee are at 6. Senators Marco Rubio and Rand Paul are at 5. And Governors Chris Christie and John Kasich round out the top 10.
Fox's Rich Edson, a suspect in the killing of a Memphis police officer, has been officially charged, according to police. And a major country music festival airs tonight.
CMA Music Festival Country's Night to Rock will be filled with performances from Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan, Kenny Chesney, Carrie Underwood, Little Big Town, and more.
Fox Radio's Michelle Felino. Fox News. We report. You decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
If you think that Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush, the big money candidates to run the federal executive branch, are a picture of the future, well, you're probably right. There's not much hope for prosperity if either of them buy their way or win the federal presidential elections. Because there's a very funny photograph, a drawing by a cartoonist named Dees, David Dees, I think his name is, and it has in the foreground a man, a pair of shoes and cuffs of pants of someone evidently who's hanged himself, and on the TV screen just in the background are the two faces of Bush, the brother and the son of one Bush or the other, and then Hillary Clinton. And that is a kind of a picture of what I think you, my listener, think we can't have either of these people. Is there any other way? Well, the reason that I give very slight interest to these candidates in this race is that it affects so much noise. If you think too much about what's going on, then you start thinking it's important. And the more you hear about these races, the more you're convinced that it really does matter that Ted Cruz get a leg up over, let's say, Rand Paul or someone like that. And the temptation that I feel is that somehow that I'll start thinking that it matters between these two parties, and it really doesn't. And if we think that solutions to the future belong with us more than with what we can get other people to do for us, or not do against us, then I think we're on our way to solving our problems and gaining a sense of confidence that we're not getting anywhere else. You get that, of course, in the Christian church. Christianity is the system that God revealed in His library of 66 books, which you can conveniently have packed in one volume. And there is this. I've been reading in Jeremiah chapter 30 this morning. There's always this sense of God's judgment and His anger against His people, right? The people He has chosen for Himself. And then on the other hand, there is this sense of, I'm going to forgive you. I will forgive you. You are my people, and you are Jacob, and Jacob will be restored. Both currents are the same. They're operating by one sovereign God upon the same people. There's a seemingly total judgment, and yet there is this gracious sense of relinquishment where the hand is stayed. And if you are like me and are thinking that we face a national disaster, what's your plan B? What do you have up your sleeve? What do you have in the way of things that you're doing that are beyond just going to work every day? Okay, you, my listener, go to work every day, but what's more than that? Well, I would suggest divesting national and investing local. And part of that argument is having your own business. Do what I do: buy into a business or sweat your way into a business, as I did here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I became an owner by simply helping somebody. That's all I did. I just helped a man with his radio station, and suddenly I'm half owner. How does that work? Well, it works in many ways. And you can become an owner by helping someone. You can also become an owner by going into a franchise. And on that point, let me recommend and mention to you Bruce Krebs, who runs Entrepreneur Source. He has your plan B. He is your headhunter. He is your consultant. He gets you into a franchise. The franchise, of course, the American system of duplicating businesses in new geographical locations. And so you become a rep for a local, a national franchise or a regional franchise. and it doesn't cost you a dime to have Bruce's consulting work done on your behalf. So call Bruce Krebs at Entrepreneur Source, 875-5621. Get on his list and tell him that you heard about him here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, 875-5621, 875-5621. And I mentioned Hillary Clinton and her very favorite writers. He's a Yankee, sad to say, but he has a very clear free market perspective and is talking about, does a great deal of analysis on system collapse and how public sentiment and confidence work in the direction of, you might say, a possible reformation. Now, destruction of something doesn't reform it. Just as Erasmus, the great Dutch philosopher, couldn't bring about a reformation, he was helpful in the time of Martin Luther and John Calvin of tearing down an existing system. But he didn't have the confidence or the faith to help build Christendom again. That required a Luther, right? A Luther, not a two-minded Erasmus. But in our time, we have the idea that, well, I offer the idea that we face a national disaster, and part of it will be very restorative of the marketplace of real price. We don't have price in the American economy. Prices are not to be believed at any point, especially on something that you can call a public asset like an equity or share or a tranche of debt. These are really unknowable, and the numbers you get are fantasy numbers. The numbers of bank debts on books are all phantom assets. We call them that because they're just a mirage. Well, Smith, in his analysis, in an essay called "Hillary Clinton and the Perfection of Consumerist Narcissism," says that we are a citizenry reduced to narcissistic consumerism and are unable to resist centralization and the financial oligarchy that controls the central bank and state machinery. Christopher Lasch, whose book is Culture of Narcissism, American Life in an Age of Diminishing Expectations, that came out in '93, Lasch saw the rise of consumerism and the resulting rootless cosmopolitanism of the modern economy as the wellspring of our culture of narcissism. And for Lasch, the relentless commoditization of life, that's a very interesting idea, the commoditization of life, where all the parts of life are turned into a commodity. The relentless commoditization of life disrupted the natural social relations of family, social reciprocity, and the workplace, depriving individuals of these sources of meaning and replacing them with an empty consumerism that worshiped fame and celebrity. So this, he's getting to talk about Hillary Clinton and her bad eggs, right? Yeah, he says the marketplace's commoditization of everyday life, both parents working all day for corporations so that they can afford corporate childcare, for example, created two alienating dynamics. And that's what local economy as an argument is about. That's why we are for small business, because in small business of the kind that J.J. Jerman runs, for example, he's a man who was an executive in an architecture firm, and he started his own business. He got involved in helping someone unload some office furniture, and he started his own business, office furniture warehouse. A man like that, he's a picture of the alternative, right? That's why on my show, the David Toulis Show, I have small business people usually, because they're living out the idea of local economy. Well, the commoditization of everyday life, Smith goes on to say, with both parents working, right, created two alienating dynamics. And he says it's this: a narcissistic personality crippled by a fragile sense of self that sought solace in consumerist identifiers. Okay, wearing the right brands. Think of your teenager daughter's friends, right? Think of them. And a therapeutic mindset that saw alienation not as the consequence of large-scale centralized commoditization and financialization, but as individual issues to be addressed with self-help and pop psychology. In other words, he says that the reason we have these mass shootings, right? These mass shootings are not just drug-induced, thanks to the pharmaceutical industry. They are the result of gigantic systems of of as he says, the commoditization of life, where everything is a commodity. Your parenting is a commodity, right? Everything is a commodity. Everything is a product. Your good feeling is a product. Okay, and you buy that good feeling, but you buy that by buying a product, right? You go on a vacation, you sign up for a new credit card, and you're better. In Lash's view, both of these dynamics ignored the loss of authenticity. I just like that phrase. Authentic. Are you an authentic man? Are you, my listener, an authentic man, or are you simply bits of script from other people, right? From movies, from books, from office discourse? Are you just bits of script, things that you've read on Facebook that you carry along? Do you have an authentic, genuine understanding of things? You, my listener, I know you're trying to have that. I am too. I don't want to just repeat what people say. I want to have my own thinking, with God's grace, right? With God's grace. He says that in Lash's view, both of these dynamics ignored the loss of authenticity that resulted from the commoditization, not just of production, okay, not just of things that you make, but of every aspect of everyday life. In this sense, Lash's social analysis is an extension of Marx's original insight into the alienating dynamics of commoditized wage work, in which workers and their work are both interchangeable. His analysis brings us to the source of modern alienation. It's not just employees who are interchangeable, okay? It's not just the working man who doesn't have a plan B, right? He's working for a corporation. Employers are equally interchangeable. The interchangeability of work, employees, employers, products, and services is the key characteristic of commoditization. So again, we're talking about how things are turned into commodities. Your love for your wife, is that a commodity too? Well, that's what we're trained to think. That's what we're encouraged to think. All parts of the system are interchangeable. And if you live in local economy with particular people, right? People who are distinct characters like J.J. Jerman or even Jim Hammond, our sheriff, even him. They're not interchangeable. Everyone has a distinct place, and I would say it has to be in the sense of God's providence. In other words, that God in his providence made things happen here in Chattanooga in local economy, you in your place. And yet we are constantly alienated from our true selves. Of course, we're alienated from God by the fall, but there's grace that overcomes that. But still, the structures that have been built around us are so massive and so huge that we are, you and me, maybe a few authentic individuals among a sea of people who are just kind of droning on. And yet, of course, they're not droning on, right? They're all made in God's image. They all have a purpose to glorify him and to prosper their employers or their customers. So there is still that human duty that can't be erased, from which we can't be absolved, right? We can't be absolved from this duty just because these massive systems, which Hillary Clinton represents, we can't separate ourselves from the obligation to prosper local economy, just like the people at Ducks for the mold and the mildew from their vents and their tubes under their floors. That's what they do at Ducks Indoor Professionals. Just wanted to mention this very fine business, loco-centric to the core, run by the Thompson family. Mark, the son, the heir, if you will, taking over, running a crew. About 11 people work in this business. It does apartment complexes. It does homes like yours. And Mark wants me to tell you that if you have your house done, he will do at no charge an important job that eliminates a fire hazard. And that fire hazard is your dryer vent. And he will do that $99 job at no charge. Call Mark Thompson at Ducks 876-9907, 876-9907. And so, well, if we're all interchangeable and we've all been commoditized, well, think about this. Hillary Clinton and her Democratic rivals and the Republican rivals in the other party of the duopoly, right? The other half of the duopoly, they're interchangeable too. We are looking at them in the same way. They are all alike. And he says the Clintons' phony sincerity, shameless self-aggrandizement, and voracious appetite for cash offered in exchange for political favors is the perfection of a system in which authenticity has been commoditized and all social relations have been reduced to financial transactions. I don't want to live in a city in which all relations are reduced to dollars. Okay, I don't want that. And I'm trying here as your host, David Toulis is my name, to encourage you and encourage myself really to think in a different way than that which is taught by Mrs. Clinton and her genuine. She is so genuine. She's so caring. I remember her husband, when he gave his speeches in his presidency, he would look at the camera and he would talk to the listener, and he had a mesmerizing, hypnotic effect, even on me, even on a free marketer, even on a man who at the time yielded to Republican importunities and favored Republicans. Even at that time, I would hear President Clinton, and he was so intimate, he's so personal, so penetrating, almost down to the very reaches of the soul. He had that power. He had hypnotic power. And Mrs. Clinton has something of that as well. I mean, she's a very astute woman, very smart person. And when you hear her speak, she has a power to disarm. Some people say that her presentations are sickening. I would say no, not at all. They're very, very engaging. They're very believable. And I would say if you are quick to dismiss her as a fraud and a cheat, I would say watch out, because she appeals to Narcissus, right? She appeals to the inner person that you have, and you want to look good. You want to be good. And she offers in her way, in that manner of presentation, she offers that promise. Well, on August the 6th here in Chattanooga, there's going to be a duo of events I wanted to mention to you. There's a prayer walk sponsored by the Scenic City Women's Network. That's August the 6th. Let me get my calendar here and see what day that is. That's a Thursday. That's this Thursday. That's a couple days from now. And it's going to be held in two places. One, everyone's invited, you, my listener. The first place is the River Park off Amnicola Highway at the concession area. And the other place is Grace Works Church, the big church at the top of the hill on Lee Highway there, where 153 intersects. Each begins at 6 p.m., so it's after work on that day. Go to either place and take part in what is a kind of a rite. There'll be words from the scriptures. No doubt it'll be a kind of a prayer vigil with an interest in God's glory and a sense of his interest, beckoning his interest in Chattanooga and in his people and the survivors of the 5 Marines and the sailor who were killed by Muhammad Abdulaziz. The prayer vigil will include a color guard from Hickson High School, and also a color guard from the Red Bank High School. And there'll be I'll have some another word on the 22nd of August, another event. That's the Saturday near the end of the month. There'll be 100 people are going to gather. 100 people are going to gather in front of the Joel Solomon Building, the federal fortress, if you will, downtown, built in the classical Roman style of empire. And it will be Saturday, August the 22nd. And the goal of Chattanoogans for Commander White will be to have 100 people gather in his defense. 100 people who think that it's important that he not be charged with any kind of military crime for using his personal weapon to fire several rounds. No doubt it was a semi-automatic. Several rounds from his clip, or magazine rather. Maybe he had 2. We don't know how many shots he fired, but he did fire, and he made an admission. That was the front page of the newspaper last week. And people here in Chattanooga, you, my listener, and others, are waiting in abeyance. We're concerned that he will be charged for violating a rule. And the question is, the question I ask is, will the necessity defense work? Well, necessity is a defense when you do something that violates a law or rule, but you violate it with impunity. Why? Because it's necessary to do so. So that's a defense. But the charge will not be why he discharged his weapon as a necessity. The charge will be, why did he carry it onto the grounds? In other words, the accusation covers all the time up to its use. The use is not the issue. The presence, the seemingly illicit presence, is at issue. And the rules that Commander White enforced as the ICO, the Installation Commanding Officer, say that he, the commanding officer, has certain duties regarding the presence and the availability of private weapons on the facility. So he was the commanding officer who would have approved all applicants for private arms to be there on the grounds. And I guess the question is, did he apply to himself? That is the question. Did he apply to himself? Did he write an application to himself and approve it and follow all the rules for him to have his own weapon on the grounds? I don't know that he would have had to have taken part in a legal fiction of that kind. It would have been a very humorous one to do. It would perhaps have followed the strict rules, but there is in a 108-page directive from the Department of Navy, it's called the Navy Physical Security and Law Enforcement Program. The data is from Opnavinst 5530.14E, Chapter CH2. The date is September 2014. And it's rules for policy and rules that he is in charge of. And it's from the Chief of Naval Operations. And the ammo has to be kept separate. There has to be minimum registration and accountability requirements. The ICO, for example, says, shall establish a process for the strict control and accountability of personal firearms authorized on board Navy installations. There's a minimum set of rules that Commander White was to have followed in his own case, right? He's the commander. Did he have to follow these rules when he is the person making application? I don't know. A locally developed receipt will be provided to the owner when turned into the storage facility. And there's a question about the signing out of the arm. Identification, Part 2 says, for example, identification of all personal firearms. The arms will be identified by manufacturer, caliber, model, and serial number. And semi-annual site inventories by serial number of personal firearms stored in the armory. Well, was his weapon in the armory or was it in his briefcase? These are potential violations. Of course, bureaucratic niggling can make mountains out of small details like this. And in fact, if the JAG officer investigating this is going to get him, well, he could probably come up with 15 violations. All right, every one of them is distinct violation. That's how you're treated when you are the target of an attack. Likely, though, the investigator will try to find one offense, and that will be a small blot on this man's record. And so the story is on the front page of the Chattanooga Times Free Press today. If you want to read that in print, as I do. At the corner, individual state licenses or permits that authorize individuals to carry concealed handguns are not recognized or valid on Navy installations. So whether relevant, this is, after all, a naval, a maritime, and a martial, a military jurisdiction. And so it doesn't really matter that he may have had such a permit or not. The rules say under no circumstances will the transportation of loaded or concealed handguns, etc., be permitted on Navy installations, except by duly authorized law enforcement personnel or by military personnel in the performance of their official duties. Does that allow an out? Well, we'll have to see. And there is, as I say, there's going to be on August 22, 100 people are going to be gathering in front of the Solomon Building. 100. That could easily include you. Now, remember, if you go, that means it's 101. So think about that. You want to get past 100? Well, you, my listener, need to put that in your calendar. I don't have here the time, but it'll probably be late morning, just guessing. I don't have details from the organizers, but it's August 22nd in front of the Joel Solomon Building downtown in Chattanooga. And it will be to pay regards, respect, honor, and have kind things said about Navy Lieutenant Commander Tim White, who is, I'll have you know, is a practicing Christian. He's a very, very forward-thinking man, a very prosperous man with 7 children. One of them is in utero, and he and his wife are expecting number 7. They are practicing Christians. And though I know you, my listener, are not a Christian, you can be sure that there are many people, probably at least a dozen people in Chattanooga, praying for that man and his family. My name is David Toulis. The show is the David Toulis Show here at AM 1240, the number 4 show. I'm sweating to get to number 3. I don't know that I can make it, but I am number 4 here. Number 1 is Russell the Kid with Digital Drive at noon. It's a very lively show that puts its finger on the location of anarchy in American life and American culture. And it's not among university students, okay? It's somewhere else. And just listen to Russell to find out. name here is David Tullis. Make sure you do your printing at Advantage Printing. Advantage Printing on Brainerd Road at 629-1800. That's 629-1800.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services.
Here you are,
The sky
working to
is
keep
our
your
limit.
customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Hi, I'm David Tullis, inviting you to make the move with me 9 to 11 a.m. weekdays here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. The David Tullis Show, featuring Nuganomics.com for Chattanooga and beyond. 9 to 11 a.m. weekdays.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If you have the DTs, shit, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out. Northgate Mall next video and get 10% off.
Any way that you kill somebody when they're innocent and defenseless is detestable.
My biological mother was 7.5 months pregnant when she had a saline abortion, which was meant to burn me both inside and out. And the doctors have also said that I should be blind and all of these horrendous things. Praise the Lord, the abortionist was not on duty the moment that I came into the world. Praise the Lord, the abortionist was not on duty the moment that I came into the world. I was actually delivered in an abortion clinic. Had he been there at the time, he could have ended my life with strangulation, suffocation, or leaving me there to die. But a nurse called an ambulance and had me transferred to a hospital. Had he been there at the time, he could have ended my life with strangulation, suffocation, or leaving me there to die. So then I was placed in the incubator, weighing 2 pounds, and they said I would die. And yet I just kept on living.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingram, David Tullis. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Saudi Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Cittapani. A Justice Department report that's just come out shows that deaths behind bars are trending upward. CBS's Paula Reed takes a look.
The number of prison inmates who died while in state and local jails has increased for the third consecutive year. The number of illness-related deaths has declined, while deaths from unnatural causes, such as suicide, drugs, and homicides, have increased. Suicide has been the leading cause of death in local jails for over a decade.
Close to a quarter of all inmate deaths occurred in California and Texas. The family of Sandra Bland, the woman who committed suicide in a Texas jail last month, is filing a federal lawsuit against the trooper who arrested her and others it says were responsible for Bland's death. At this point, at least, the Republican presidential race boils down to Donald Trump and everyone else. CBS's Stephen Portnoy has the latest on that.
This CBS News poll has Donald Trump in front with 24% support, nearly twice that of his nearest rival, Jeb Bush. CBS News political director John Dickerson.
People are so starved for candor from politicians that they're rushing to him because he appears to say what's on his mind.
But the poll also shows more Republicans would be dissatisfied with Trump as a nominee than any other candidate. And overall, 6 in 10 voters say they have a negative view of it.
A Walker Brothers circus show scheduled for tonight in Brantford, Vermont has been canceled. During a performance last evening in Lancaster, New Hampshire, a powerful storm brought the tent down on spectators. A man and a girl were killed. A pole fell on Brandon Isham's young son.
People who were part of the circus just yelled, "Run." I just see stakes and stuff coming up out of the ground. Next thing you know, the tent's coming up and over.
A community 100 miles north of San Francisco is going up in flames from a wildfire that's burning over 97 square miles. Thousands of people who live in the area have no idea if their homes will be there when they return.
My heart's broken. Lived here 13 years and I've loved it, but I don't think I can go through this again.
In Frankfort, Kentucky, 2 women are suing the county sheriff and a school resource officer for placing their disabled children in handcuffs. A video of one of the incidents taken by a school administrator and uploaded to YouTube by the ACLU shows the 8-year-old boy struggling and crying after he tried to hit the officer.
You can do what we've asked you to.
You don't see my point.
Now sit down in the chair like I've asked you to.
The officer's lawyer says he was following guidelines on how to deal with children who pose a threat to themselves or others. An outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in New York City, blamed for 7 deaths now, has been traced to mist from infected cooling towers in a South Bronx neighborhood. A woman who lives there wonders if neglect is to blame.
It raises some questions about maintenance in the area and whether or not, our buildings are being maintained.
In early Wall Street trading, Dow Industrials are up a fraction of a point.
Okay.
This is CBS.
For some reason, they wouldn't let me.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? I'm Jim O'Connor, independent life insurance agent specializing in term life insurance.
Maybe.
There's been a price war between the major life insurance companies. If you've had your term life policy more than 2 years, you may be paying too much. For example, a male age 45, non-tobacco user issued preferred best, $1 million of coverage is only $56 a month guaranteed level for 10 years. Or a male age 50, non-tobacco user issued preferred best, $500,000 of coverage is only $91 a month guaranteed level for 20 years. The life insurance industry is going through exciting changes. Make sure you're not paying too much for your term insurance. For new or replacement term life insurance, call for a free quote. 800-799-0903. That's 800-799-0903. Don't pay too much for your term insurance. Call 800-799-0903 or visit my website at term22.com. That's term22.com. Rates based on standard underwriting and may vary by state.
An Olympic tune is raising eyebrows. CBS News correspondent Steve Kathan tells us why.
Too many have heard it. One of the official songs for the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing sounds familiar. The song is called The Snow and Ice Dance, and it has a sound as it goes along a lot like Let It Go, the hugely popular Disney hit from the animated movie Frozen. Comments to that effect appear on the song's YouTube page. Some call it an outright copy. There's been no comment from Disney. Steve Kathan, CBS News.
There was an argument last night in the parking lot outside a hip-hop concert at New Jersey's PNC Arts Center. Heated words led to gunplay that left 2 people wounded and touched off a crowd stampede. The shooters slipped away into some nearby woods. State police and canine dogs have been searching the woods, but haven't found any trace of the gunman so far. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk
1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nuganomics with David Toulis.
There's a huge warehouse in Chattanooga on Riverside Drive that's so large that if you put your eye down against the floor on one end of it, you would not be able to see the far wall, the corner along the wall on the far side. The building is so large that I dare say it accounts for the curvature of the earth. And that building is the one that houses Office Furniture Warehouse, run by an entrepreneur, Jerman, who is doing what I think you, my listener, need to think about doing yourself. And that is working in your field and seeing opportunities that are kind of on the edge. They're on the edge of what you are doing now. And you're thinking, wow, that's a whole area that can be exploited, meaning can be served by someone like me in this field. And that's what J.J. Jerman did. He had worked he was working in an architect's office as director of interiors, and he came upon a point of service that took him out of that job and into another world entirely, one that fills this cavernous warehouse on Riverside Drive. Riverside Drive runs behind the Police Services Center and parallel to Amnicola Highway. JJ, welcome to the David Toulis Show.
Thanks, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, tell us how you got out of the architecture field into this world of effectively recycling and saving from the landfill office furniture, all kinds of things that are connected with the physical fillings of offices and buildings.
Well, it was just one of those opportunities where I guess God opens the door for you, and I happened to be at the right place at the right time. And I had a client that was trying to shut down his operation in Atlanta. And he had tons of office furniture. He had about $1.2 million worth of office furniture. He showed me.
This was a client that your architectural firm was helping or had helped?
Yeah, it's a client we'd helped before. And he had about $1.2 million in furniture. Showed me a quote what he'd gotten for someone to come in and throw away all the furniture for $40,000. So he's going to throw $1.2 million worth of furniture away. It's going to cost him $40,000. And I said, well, I've got a client I'm working with that might need some furniture.
And what kind of client were you working with?
It was another client. It was a technology client. So it was a good fit because the firm that I was talking to was, scaling back. It was the internet bust. Things were going bad for technology companies. And they were just trying to scale back. And this other company was growing and needed furniture. So I put the two together. I brokered a deal. And I looked at the money I made on that deal and thought, wow. Money flipping used office furniture inventories.
Well, how did you do that? You were in Atlanta at the time?
I was.
How do you do that? What's the physical means of doing it? What contacts do you have to make for that to work?
Actually, it was all the same contacts that I used to have when I did the architecture. I really networked with commercial real estate brokers. So they're walking around with tenants who either need space or need to give up space. And if they need space, oftentimes they need furniture. If they're giving up space and downsizing, they're trying to get rid of furniture. So I just went out to that network and started letting them know that I could help them help their tenants get rid of furniture.
And how did you find the men and women involved in that network? How did you do that? Was that through a Chamber of Commerce meetings or websites, or
not so much to the
bumping
chamber,
into folks?
Not so much to the chamber in Atlanta, and I did a lot of that here in Chattanooga through the chamber. But there in Atlanta, I just went directly. I knew all the major real estate brokers there, commercial, CB Richard Ellis, Cushman Wakefield, Staubach, all those guys, and I just went directly to them, developed personal relationships. Developing personal relationships with people, and they got to know me, they got to trust me, and they'd call me up when a tenant had a need, whether it was getting rid of furniture or buying furniture.
Now, what brought you to Chattanooga, J.J. Jerman?
Well, actually, the market downturned so quickly in Atlanta. About 2007, we were starting to feel it, even before the rest of the company felt it in 2008. I had a company that had about 20 installers, 3 trucks, 40,000 square feet in warehouse, and we downsized to about 3 guys, 1 truck, and really couldn't compress our warehouse space any further. So my partner and I decided just to close that business. I decided to move back to Tennessee. This is where I was from. I grew up here, had family.
Here as in Chattanooga?
Well, actually, just east of Chattanooga. I grew up in Etowah, Tennessee. And so I had family up here, and I decided this was a good place to kind of restart. And I started back up in Cleveland, Tennessee in an old gas station. Had 3 roll-up door bays. I bought a tractor trailer load of furniture, loaded it up.
All right, where did you buy that first load from?
I got it from another broker that I'd networked before in Atlanta, and he had just picked up a big inventory out of a building in Atlanta. Of course, Atlanta was going through a lot of downturn, and so I just bought that tractor trailer load from him.
And what was in that tractor? What was in the trailer?
Oh, it's full of executive U Group desk. It's a desk with a return and a credenza and a hutch on it. Very high end. Came out of a financial institution in Atlanta. They sold for about $10,000 a piece new. I sold them out of that Cleveland gas station for about $1,100 a piece.
And your buyers, of course, were very happy, not even thinking that they were serving the cause of the environment in giving.
The thing I liked about it, when you start a business, you have to know what your why is. And if you ask an entrepreneur or someone who wants to be an entrepreneur, says, "What's your why for doing this business?" If they say to make money, that's the wrong why. The why is, what is the bigger picture? What is the bigger thing you're trying to accomplish? For me, it was, I want to do something that was environmentally good for the planet and for people. But the second thing is, I wanted to do something that was economically good for small business and startup. And the best thing, I call my clients to use Lexus Buyer. There are people who go out and spend $80,000 for a new Lexus, but my clients are the ones that want to buy a Lexus. They like the quality, they like the name brand, they like the image of it, but they're going to buy one with 80,000 miles on it for $30,000.
Now, in your estimation there, the first thing you mentioned was the environmental reason, and the second was the client, the consumer. I guess really though, as far as the priority in your mind, it has to be the client, not the consumer, not the environmental argument.
Well, yeah, the client is primarily, but the benefit of is the bonus, I guess, of this whole business model is that you get to be green. So often there's a lot of greenwashing that goes on out there, but so often people, when they want to do a green building, they have to spend more money for materials to get that green or LEED certification. With me, you're buying high quality furniture from the same manufacturers at a discounted price. So you're getting it at a discounted rate, but you're also being green because you're helping me help you keep that furniture out of the landfill and redeploy it.
Now, tell my listener who's thinking of going into business for himself, what are some things that you have done well that he would be good to pay attention to? Okay, networking. You mentioned personal relationships. Why are personal relationships essential for my listener to want and to care about if he is going to somehow get apart from his current situation as an employee?
I think relationships is the key thing for any small business owner, because that's how you build clientele. You don't want to become someone's vendor. You want to become someone's business partner. When you're a vendor, you become commoditized. When you're someone's business partner, there's someone they look to for help and advice and support and whatever they need. When I moved here to Chattanooga, I knew no one. I knew absolutely no one here. I unfortunately met someone who got me to join the chamber. I became a chamber ambassador, and my Rolodex grew exponentially over a very short period of time. And Chattanooga is a very friendly business environment. People want to see you succeed, and people help me succeed. They opened doors for me. They made contacts for me. That was all relationship building. And that was key for me. And I'm still heavily involved in the chamber. I'm still a chamber ambassador. I go to ribbon cuttings. I go to ambassador meetings. I go to the AM, PM networkings. You got to be out face to face with people. You can email people, you can tweet, you can do all the social media things, which are good, but face to face is still very important in terms of building rapport and building trust.
So in the scenes that you're setting for us here, JJ Jerman, the online digital presence is really at the margin. The essential thing is your presence, your handshake, you're passing out your card, you're listening to people, you're finding out about people, not even with the idea of making a sale in view.
No, and that's our strategy. We're not about, we don't want to show up at your door with a catalog and say, hey, you want to buy a chair? We want to show up and find out what are your needs are, what are your pain points, what are things that you have difficulty with, and do we have a service or product that aligns with that? And if we don't, we're more about a consultative sell. We're not just about a product sell.
Well, talk a little bit about that. I was going to ask you next, what mistakes did you make? But before we get to that question, talk about the idea of pain points, because in the marketplace concept, the businessman, the entrepreneur, is finding, as you say, pain points in his body of potential clients. These are people whose services are too expensive, they're too slow, they have too many breakdowns, there are all kinds of things that are problems, the pain points you mentioned. And you're there to say, given what I know and given God's gifts to me and my skills and my background and my tech savvy, I can help you in this way. And so your whole initial effort is to determine what the pain is, what the structure of it is. Is that right? Am I summarizing what you said?
Yes,
in a useful way?
You're very much on target there. I'll tell you, if you're going to start a business, my best advice I can give you is to listen to your potential customer and find out where their difficulty or pain points is, as David mentioned there, because what that does is that creates opportunities for a business model. There are so many things that we now do at OFW that we never intended or thought we'd do before, but they were derived organically. I say a client comes to us and say, God, I have all these really great waiting room chairs. They're in good condition, but the material is just outdated. It just doesn't look, appropriate anymore. Well, can you recover those? Well, at the time we didn't. But we got into upholstery. Now services for our company account for about 36% of our revenue. So not only do we upholster waiting room chairs, now we've gotten into upholstering exam tables for physicians. They'll pay upwards of $600 from the manufacturer to get a new tabletop, when we go in for a fraction of the price and reupholster that same exam table.
How did you find the person to do this? Was it an entrepreneur who was running a shop somewhere in Hickson or someplace in Chattanooga that wasn't making much of a go in the upholstery field? Because it seems to me that that's kind of a dying trade. How did you find this person, and how does that person integrate his or her services in OFW's offerings?
We did. We did have to go outside originally, because you're right. There is no technical school or trade school that teaches upholstery anymore. It's an art or a trade that's just passed down either through manufacturers who still upholster chairs, whether it's Lazy Boy or whoever it may be. And it's just finding those individuals out in the marketplace who maybe are dissatisfied with their current working relationship in a big company and maybe want to work on their own. So some of them come on board with us and help us, and some of those are outside resources we use.
Now, is the upholsterer you have at OFW at Office Furniture Warehouse, JJ Jerman, is that someone you employ, or is it all done by contract, job by job?
We do both. We have an outside source that we use, but we also have inside resources. There are a lot of things that we can upholster and do in-house because technology has made it a lot simpler for us to do some of this. There are some new ways of reupholstering, especially task chairs, that allow us to do a lot of that work in-house. Some of the more complicated things that require more sewing and stitching, some of that we'll outsource.
Now, my listener is thinking about his own prospective business, and I think he picked up on the word derived organically, which is to say how Office Furniture Warehouse grew from service bit by bit and then expanded. Can you talk a little bit about the word organically and how your experience in developing your business exposes that word and plays on that word?
Yeah, I would say there's two ways to grow. You can grow intentionally, where you say there's a service or product I think the market needs, and then you have to go out and prove that theory. Does the service or the marketplace really need this product? Or clients can come to you that you're currently working with and say, hey, I know you're doing X for me, but I have this situation called Y that I have a problem with, and I can't find anybody to do it. Is this something that fits in your wheelhouse? Is this something that you have the expertise or ability to do? And then you have to look at it from a business perspective and say, okay, can we realistically do that? If someone comes to me and says, hey, I need an electrician to wire my building, no, that's not what I do. Everything I do is around furniture. But if they say, hey, I've got these chairs that the lifts went out of them and they don't go up and down anymore, can you fix those? Because if I have to go out and buy new chairs, I'm going to spend $600 or $700. Well, yes, we researched it. We found where we could buy lifts, and we can replace that lift for $89 instead of them spending $600.
And installing the lift.
And it's installed completely. Lift install for $89.
That seems very complicated and kind of gnarly to have to do that.
We thought it was initially as well, but when we got into it and researched it, we found out it wasn't. In fact, most of these major corporations have what we call chair graveyards, and we'll go in there and they'll have 60, 70 chairs all stacked in a room that don't work. Well, they don't work because the lifts are out, or the arm caps are bad, or something's wrong with it. Well, we can take maybe the 60 or 70 chairs, take 10 of them, cannibalize 10 of them for parts, fix most of them, and the ones we can't fix with the existing parts, we'll order new parts for.
This is David Toulis. You're here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're talking with on Riverside Drive that its concrete floor reflects the curvature of the earth. It's so big, and he's a recycler. He takes from businesses that are downsizing their office furniture, their dividers, their chairs, their desks, their platforms for computers and other things, and brings them to new customers. What about computers? Is that office furniture as well? The computers being commodities, or is that something not within your purview?
Actually, it's not in our scope what we do, but we'll make it a one-stop shop for a customer. I have people, other people like myself that are technology brokers. So if a client says, hey, I need you to handle the furniture and the technology, I want to do one-stop shopping, then I'll bring in an outside resource that specializes in the technology, and I'll make it a one-stop shopping experience for that customer.
Well, you are a man who believes that that bow ties are an advantage. JJ Jerman, I've never seen you without a bow tie, and it's very possible that I, the editor here at Nuganomics.com and the host of our show, was inspired by you at one point. You're a very dapper dresser. How does that fit into your character, or is that just something that something that attaches to the furniture business?
I think part of it's just my personality. Part of it's, coming from the world of architecture, and another part of it's being in sales. I think, if you're wearing a blue suit and a white shirt and a regular tie, I mean, you look like every other person that comes in the door. But if you're wearing a light summer suit and suspenders and bucks and a bow tie, people remember that person.
Well, how much effort goes into the online presence of OFW? It seems that that's a very demanding thing. You have to hire people to do it. Tell me about how you outsource that, or how you get people to find you online. JJ,
yeah, we're very active online. I mean, we've got a Twitter feed, a Facebook page. We even have a Facebook page for our mascot. Our mascot is a flying pig called Oliver. But I have a social media person on staff, and I use an outsourced agency called Social Joy, which helps us manage our online presence with doing blogs, doing postings. We're not just trying to sell product. We're trying to inform our customers about things that we can do or things they should know about their office environment.
Well, just curious, is Social Joy your online help? Is that a local outfit or someone?
There's a lot of social media, and they decided that they want to start their own social media company.
Now, I asked you about things you've done right in developing OFW, JJ Jerman. What are some things that you would call mistakes, things that you look back on and you say, well, I didn't quite do well there, and there's a principle that I see now looking back that I violated? Is there anything like that that you can talk with my listener about?
Yes, very specifically. When you go to hire somebody to come work with you, take your time to hire. And oftentimes I feel like I just needed someone in a position. And if someone has a pulse and is breathing, that doesn't make them qualified to do the job that you need to get done. So even if you have some pain during the process of trying to get a process done or completed, make sure you do the due diligence and take the time to hire the right people. Because when you surround yourself with people that are as smart or hopefully smarter than you, then you're going to build an outstanding organization.
This is David Toulis. Our show looks at local economy and the free markets in Chattanooga and beyond. Our theory is one that entrepreneurs such as JJ Jerman live out, and that is love your neighbor, buy local. So if you, my listener, or run a business or know about someone who does have a large plant with office furniture, think about contacting JJ. Our theory here at Hot News Talk Radio is that near is better than far, that small is better than big, and that simple is better than complex. In the footnotes, 2 more points. Always make your arguments by 3, and have your footnotes that bring up the rear guard. And I would say the rear guard would include personal is better than corporate, and that physical beats abstract. That's the theory of local economy, and we're facing something much worse than the national economy than 2007 and 8, the great seizing up of credit and the great meltdown that washed through the canyons on Wall Street. The next disaster, the next recognition, the next great reckoning, if you will, if we believe David Stockman, will affect Main Street much more drastically than the past one did. And so if that's true, JJ Jerman, are you in a better position than, let's say, vendors of new equipment? How are you positioned for the next downturn?
I think I love our business model for our company, because what it does is it's like a stock portfolio. You don't put all your money in utility stocks or all your money in tech stocks. We are very diversified. If somebody wants new furniture, we can sell it. If somebody wants used furniture, we can sell it. If somebody just wants to fix the furniture they have, we can repair it. So we have lots of different revenue streams that we can work through. So if the economy downturns and credit tightens up, people can't afford to buy furniture, new furniture, then we can sell them used furniture.
So you'd say that your business has about 10 revenue streams? I'm trying to add them all up. 7 or 10?
At least. I mean, between my chair doctor, which is the whole division specialized in chair, I have OFW Plus Med, which specializes in medical furniture and equipment, and we're also exporting medical furniture, working on that, exporting to Mexico. And then OFW itself, which does all the furniture installation, reconfiguration. We do storage.
Okay, storage. Had you mentioned that before, storage, that people pay rent for you to store their gear?
Oh, yes,
Right.
yes. A lot of people want to redeploy their furniture or equipment, whatever they have at some point in time, but they don't have any place to put it. So I'm the ideal location for it.
Well, if you have money questions or need an accountant, make sure you contact Eric Pelton. Eric Pelton at EJ Pelton Company is the numbers guy, and he does taxes and helps you with your cash flow. If you're a small business person, cash flow is often a really serious problem, and Eric will be glad to advise you. Just let him know that you listen to David Toulis, and he would love to give you some time to find out who you are and where you're going, especially if you're a protein entrepreneur, someone who's just starting a business. He'd love to hear about that at the early stages. Might help you put your feet on the ground. That's Eric Pelton. His number is 622-3156. That's 622-3156. We're talking with J.J. Herman of Office Furniture Warehouse, OFW on Riverside Drive. JJ, thank you for joining my listener and me here at Nuganomics.com and the David Toulis Show.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, David.
I've got some things I want you to hear. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300
David,
plus
make
stores
sure that
later,
microphone
we
is
still do.
turned on, and make sure that mic is pointing into their face. Can't hear us on the side. That the mic got to be pressed up or on. Yes,
Life
Mike?
is short. Eat better pizza.
And make sure it's on. They got to
We've
be
got a
talking
table here at
into it, not
Delia's
on
and
the
Sunny
side of it.
Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican. It's a rich salad, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork.
Okay, and the same thing with you.
Every
Make sure
dish
you're talking
beautifully
into the
pictured on
mic.
the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's and Saudi Daisy
No, it
on
doesn't.
Dayton
Just-
Pike
you gotta
near the
talk
Thrasher
into the
line.
mic,
Here's
not on
dinner.
the side of it.
Delia's uses the
Make sure that's
fresh
turned on and
cooked
talk
to
directly
perfection.
into it.
Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day for lunch and dinner. Treat
Yeah,
yourself
I'm
to
saying it.
Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call
That's
521-7145.
remember, the
That's
first inch of that is all windscreen. The mic
521-7145.
doesn't.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, indoor air
That's
professionals,
all
better known as
windscreen.
duct
Getting
busters,
part of
cleans
that-
HVAC systems using 127 definable duct busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your
The mic
business to help reduce
pulled out
employee
2 inches
illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his
Okay, just
parents,
have them
Dick
talk
and Joan
directly into
Thompson,
the
have been
microphone.
building our local economy
And it's
and
turned
helping
on,
local
right?
people with HVAC systems 16
Okay, all right,
years.
have a good day.
Ducts, indoor air professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
News Talk 1240.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items. For Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. hotnewstalkradio.com and half off. Surf our site and ride the wave of savings.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the Southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingraham, David Toulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. A father and daughter killed during a visit to a fairground in New Hampshire. More than 20 others hurt in a circus tent collapse.
About 100 people were inside the tent when it happened at the Lancaster Fairgrounds. Brandon Isham was there with his two sons, age 4 and 2.
My youngest son was scared to death. He didn't know what was going on. And my oldest son, he knew that he got hit in the head.
That boy is recovering. Authorities are investigating how the tent was put up.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers, their attorney, says the family of a woman found dead in a Texas county jail after a traffic stop confrontation with a trooper is getting ready to file a lawsuit against the trooper, and some 13,000 people urged to evacuate as Northern California wildfires continue. This firefighter says, according to some very senior firefighters,
This is, unprecedented. They haven't seen fire behavior like this in their entire career.
At least 24 homes have been destroyed. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
Chief Deputy 15.
This is David Toulis. We have here in the studio Sheriff Jim Hammond of Hamilton County, and we have you, my listener, I know have questions for you. The sheriff for 7 years. You were a chief deputy for some years before that. Could you tell us a little bit about what your analysis of Mohammed Abdulaziz's attack on the military installations here in Chattanooga?
Well, of course, I think everybody would agree that, first of all, there was terrorism involved. He created an atmosphere for terrorism. I think it was also domestic terrorism in that he was homegrown. He was born and raised here, and it's certainly terrorism, certainly domestic. What you probably not going to hear, and this is Jim Hammond speaking, is I believe this was Islamic terrorism, Islamic domestic. To train his faith, the beliefs of the faith that he recognizes, the things that led up to this particular day and what he did, all of that points to me that this was a perfect example of what we call domestic Islamic terrorism.
So Mohammed Abdulaziz had personal problems. He had a little bit of alcohol consumption. He had some debts. He
would show that. I think that his mental health, his faith training that he had, his concern about whether or not he could reach the heaven that the Islamic Muslims speak of, required him to do some pretty drastic things in order to get that accomplished.
So it was a religiously inspired attack. It wasn't just political. It was from the political religious system of Islam.
I think that was certainly part of it, yes.
Is it fair to say that this analysis is being overlooked by the national narrative that is coming out of Chattanooga and the FBI office?
I think there are many people out there that misunderstand what the long-term purpose of Islam is, and that is that the world must be Islamic, that Allah must rule supreme in all religions. I spent several years living in the Middle East, working with these folks. There's a lot of good folks out there who are Muslim, who are not I might put it hell-bent to try to kill all Christians or anybody of any other race. But the tenets of the faith, for anybody who studies the tenets of Islam, know that that is one of the strong tenets of the faith, is that the whole world must be Islamic and bow to the knee of Allah's will.
Was Mohammed Abdulaziz radicalized, or was he just a faithful, good, routine, ordinary kind of Muslim?
Well, I don't think the reports are in to show that. I think it could be both.
it seems to me that my listener should be much more concerned to hear that he was not radicalized, which seems to be the tenor of the federal analysis. He was not radicalized. If that's the case, then we have really a lot to worry about. My listener does, for his personal safety, from regular Muslim people if they are faithful to the tenets of Islam.
Well, there are a number of Muslims in the world, probably 1.2 billion, depending on the numbers you're looking at. The average Muslim out there is what I would refer to as a secular Muslim. They're not out to create jihad. They're not out to try to kill their neighbors. But if you look at the tenets of the faith, and that requires you to study what it says.
And you have.
And you follow that. And I have. I've spent a number of years looking at it. If you follow the tenets of the faith, it does say that there are certain things that must be accomplished. One of them is every good Muslim who wishes to gain paradise must not interfere with Allah's will that the whole world has to become Islamic, and that other faiths will either fall in line or they're to be destroyed.
And the Muslim creed is works-oriented. Christianity is quite a contrast. Christianity posits God's grace, God saving men by his good grace, not of anything that they've done. The Mohammedan system is one of works. You have to do certain things, follow certain rites, practice certain rituals, and you then obtain salvation. And if you've sinned, you can obtain forgiveness by a great act of self-denial, which is jihad.
That is correct.
Well, so the attack on Chattanooga was in some way a clash of worldviews, right? A clash of systems. The Muslim system attacking the Western/Christian system. Can you talk about that?
Well, first of all, this particular young man who did this heinous act, we don't know what was in his mind. He's gone. But I can tell you, if you look at what he surrounded himself with in terms of his training, in terms of what the tenets of the faith are, all of these add up to show you that he, in seeking paradise as he sees it as a Muslim, felt like one of the only things he could do is to guarantee himself paradise was to not only go out and follow the tenets of that faith, which would be to destroy infidels, which guarantees you almost a pass.
The attack was an expiation of his sins, a paying of his sins.
I think that's correct.
Well, Sheriff Hammond,
this is not an official report from the FBI.
No,
They're still doing their study. I'm telling you.
This is your analysis.
Yes.
Well, Sheriff Hammond, you're the most important and influential person in the county because of the office you hold as sheriff. You are. I say that, and now I want to ask you a question. Were you in the loop as far? Were you somehow in the intel loop regarding this particular non-state actor, or were you surprised to hear about him on that day?
Well, certainly, I was surprised. I don't know that anybody was in the loop in terms of he was on the radar screen. That may be true, but the FBI is going to keep all that under wraps till they do their investigation and release their formal. So I can't tell you. I can tell you Jim Hammond, the sheriff, was not in the loop as to this one particular young man, whether or not he was on anybody's radar.
Well, seeing that you are the most important person in the county, militarily speaking, you ensure the public order. Should you be, or should you have been informed of his presence here?
No, I don't think that would have been practical given the number of Muslims who live in our area. There's a great number here, and we can't certainly be informed on each one being tracked. Occasionally, I will get intel reports like the chief in the city and other chiefs do. But in this particular case, this one, I was not privy to any information on his activities.
Well, in a way, we could say that that's good, because if you did have access to that giant pool of data that the federal government collects, you would be, as a politician, as a law enforcement official, very tempted to use that for other purposes.
Well, I don't want to get into the federal business. They have their role. I have mine. My job is confined to this county and this state. I would certainly appreciate an update if anything comes about that is going to risk the safety and security of my citizens by the federal government. And normally I do get that, I can tell you. I'm not sure to what degree the FBI were informed of that, or the CIA, or any other agents.
Well, we have a federal fusion center here in Chattanooga, and there are several in the South. The Sheriff's Department is very well connected with the federal, you might say, the federal empire in its digital surveillance. To what extent does the department use digital analysis and data mining from the NSA?
Well, again, I'm not at liberty to tell you what we do use. I can tell you that we do on occasion get information that is helpful to a case that is relevant to Hamilton County.
Is that under a warrant?
Not necessarily.
So data mining from the NSA and other federal military and other reconnaissance agencies.
We are not routinely involved in that.
Okay.
As the Sheriff Office of Hamilton County.
Sheriff Hammond, whom do you represent in your office?
Well, the sheriff, of course, as you and I were talking earlier, comes from the old English word sheriff. Shire being a geographic location like a county, and a reef being a lord who is appointed to protect the people in that case, on that kind of thing. So, as the sheriff, which we have shortened to become sheriff, sheriffs came to this country as an organization that was to protect the people. Now, sheriffs have certain constitutional responsibilities in this state. There are 95 counties, there are 95 sheriffs. Primarily, my responsibilities as sheriff is, first of all, a keeper of the jail. I am to protect the inmates who are in that jail against being harmed, but I'm also to protect the citizens from being harmed by those inmates. So that is a responsibility constitutionally of the sheriff. Sheriffs are elected, which means I answer to the will of the people. Every 4 years, the people get to decide whether they like the sheriff or not. Sheriff is also a protector of the courts. My job is to see that there are officers who are there in those courts to protect the citizens as they come to do business with the courts, and the judges from anybody who might want to harm them. Sheriff is also a server of the process. I must see that all the legal documents are served that are brought to my attention by the courts in any way that they're brought there. And then the normal duties that you would find of a sheriff, such as running patrol division, narcotics, undercover operations. In my particular case, we've got about 15 different divisions that do this, from underwater dive team to mounted horse patrol to reserve groups, and on and on and on.
Well, because you're elected, is it fair to say that you represent the people, or do you represent the state?
I represent the people in
authority as the sheriff to kick out anyone in Hamilton County who is offending the rights of the people, offending their peace, security, and happiness.
Well, I don't know that kick out is the right term.
That's the term I'm using.
I have the authority, and I must execute that authority if the law is being broken, whether it's a state law or whether or not it falls under our federal constitution.
And so that means that we're talking about you have the authority to eject and repel and remove parties that are private parties that are violating the law, as well as state parties. In other words, as well as government entities.
What you mean by remove? If I'm executing a lawful order, then the people to obey that order. If they don't, then the sheriff has the power to take them into custody.
Well, let's say the IRS is abusing process against businessmen who are my listeners here in Chattanooga, and you are made clear to you that they're taking shortcuts. They're not exercising, not letting the taxpayer or the person exercise his rights. That agent or that office could be summarily removed by you if you are representative of the people.
If in fact there is a violation of the law that the sheriff is obligated to enforce, then I must do my duty. It would depend on each individual case, so I can't really speculate on whether it's the IRS or someone else. I would have to look at each individual case and make a judgment whether my responsibilities fall within the constitutional responsibilities of a sheriff within this state.
So, but if you are represented by the people, you're elected by them, your duty is to protect their rights and their property effectively.
It is to protect them. So much of rights depends on what the law says. I'm to see that they are not unduly harmed or unduly held against their will, that there has to be a violation of the law before I can execute judgment.
I've heard very few complaints, Sheriff Hammond, about Hamilton County's Sheriff's Department regarding abuse of members of the public. We hear across the country many stories, see many videos of policemen battering women in summer skirts and picking up people that they've gassed, gassing constrained inmates and the like, often by municipal corporation departments, police departments, which are different from sheriff's departments. Why do we talk about what your government of this agency is doing that we don't hear these reports in the media?
Well, again, you said a lot here, and I can't confirm or deny the things you're saying because I don't have a specific. If you present me with a specific and it's in my jurisdiction and I happen to know the evidence based on what's being done there, then I could discuss that case with you. Very frankly, I'm a brother to fellow police officers who are city police officers, municipal police officers, federal police officers. I'm not putting myself in a position where I stand isolated and they're not doing their job and I am. I won't say that. What I'm saying is I will look at each case in its totality and make a decision. Does it affect my role as a sheriff, and how should I respond?
We've got a call. Caller, you're on the air.
Sheriff Hammond, it's nice to hear you on the radio. I'm a proponent of the sheriff and the sheriff's department, as I'm a student of history. And there's been a movement to eliminate sheriff's departments all over the country by the politicians who want to federalize the police.
That's correct.
And on my phone, I have on speed dial the sheriff's department, just in case I get pulled over by a statutory entity called the local police or the feds or whatever, because I know the sheriff is there to protect my individual constitutional rights and to enforce that highest law. What is your feeling on these individuals that are trying to abolish the sheriff's departments at the federal government level, politicians and so on, and the idea that evidently the federal government can't protect its citizens? $500 million a year goes to the military, and 24 Muslim radical terrorists flew their planes into the World Trade Center. And with all this NSA money, a radical Muslim somehow slipped by and killed 5 U.S. Marines in our backyard. So why isn't the FBI sharing information with you? Are they that inefficient and effective that you maybe have to call out the militia or a posse comitatus and deputize us to protect their own people here, since evidently the federal government can't?
Well, go ahead, Sheriff Hammond.
Well, you're talking about several issues here. Again, some issues go to what the federal law is. Some go to what state law is. Some go to what the constitutional responsibility of the sheriff. All of that taken together. You ask a bunch of questions in one. I can tell you this, that I have the highest respect for the FBI. I've worked with them. I've been through some of their training. I understand what their role is, and they have a certain role at the federal level. I have the highest respect for state officers, the TBI, and those who work at the state level. I have the highest respect for the local law enforcement. My brothers who are trained at the same training I received. So I think the average police officer does a great job. When you look at nationwide, there's close to 1 million police officers in this country, and there's over 300+ million people. We do a good job of enforcing the laws. When you talk about, I don't want to use, I don't remember your exact words, but you hear all these reports you say across the U.S. I don't see those same stats, that it's just rampant police abusing citizens. I think most police and most citizens work hand in hand to see that there's safety and security across this country.
Well, it seems that sheriff's deputies have much more reason to respect the person of someone, let's say, stopped on the side of the road than a police officer, because his authority, which is you are accountable to the people, and you have an interest in making sure that if laws have to be enforced, that they be not done rigorously, but fairly and as necessary. Police departments are not in that same form. They are, the chiefs of police, such as Fred Fletcher, are hired, and he's accountable to the mayor as a part of the executive branch of a city corporation. So you have every reason to mind the operation of the officers, the care of the officers in public.
I would agree with one thing in that, and that is, as an elected official, I do serve directly and closer to the people who can make a decision whether or not they like their sheriff every 4 years. Fred Fletcher works for the mayor, was hired by the mayor, but the mayor is elected by the people. So the people still have the final say-so in who's going to govern them at the local level. When you talk about police departments, you are correct. Most police departments have a hired chief that's either by the city council or the city manager or the mayor, but all those people are elected. And citizens who believe that their police are not treating them fairly, they still have the power of the vote if they'll exercise it.
Well, it seems quite oblique when you have to go through the mayor. Well, Sheriff Hammond, I want to go back to the question regarding the National Security Agency and the whole idea of parallel construction. Parallel construction is when a local jurisdiction uses illicit data mined from the surveillance apparatus of the national government, which at least one federal judge has said Court of Appeals said is illegal. And what it does, it launders the information and creates a plausible narrative for the purpose of the court, for evidence against a defendant. Again, it's illicit material that allows the investigator to trace and create a plausible factual base in the evidence trail in the prosecution. Does Hamilton County Sheriff's Department use parallel construction, or do you have a strong view about that process?
If you mean by parallel construction, and I think from what you said, what I interpret you're saying is, do we use this mind data to formulate how we deal with inmates or how we deal with prisoners. I can tell you.
Well, not prisoners, but people who are suspects or fugitives.
However we might use it, I can tell you that we do not, as a routine, do that in the sheriff's office. I can't speak for the city police or anyone else, but from time to time, I do receive updates, intel from NSA and other agencies, and we take that into consideration as part of our overall responsibility. But at the local level, whether it's the city of Chattanooga Police or the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department, we still fall under the will of the people through the vote. Whether it's the vote for their legislator, whether it's the vote for their local school board, whether it's a vote for their mayor, or whether it's a vote. So the people still retain the right to put men and women in office that they feel like are doing the job they want to see done.
What about the use of federal use of planes that detect cell phone locations? Has the county and your department taken advantage of that data?
All intel has its place depending on what the law that's written for that intel prescribes. I do know that right now the big issue is the drones. Are drones something that should be used as part of law enforcement? They are a tool. They can be used for good or for bad. I do plan to seek to have drones used for illegal activities. I will have to jump through a lot of hoops to do that. I will have to follow what the law says. I will have to seek the proper court orders to be able to utilize that kind of equipment.
Would that all be for surveillance?
It could be
gathering visual evidence.
It could be depending on what we're dealing with.
Can you be specific as to one scenario in which a drone might be used by the county?
If we know, for instance, that someone is out there illegally moving drugs from one location to the other, maybe even across state lines, drones could be very effective in tracking that as part of the investigation. But it has to be part of an ongoing investigation that is approved by law.
Talk about the drug war, Sheriff Jim Hammond. Is the drug war something that has benefited my listener, or has it worked to reduce his rights and reduce his liberties of movement and other?
Well, I don't think we'll ever get on top or win, I might say, the drug war unless we first win it through the hearts of the people on what they will tolerate in illegal drugs. Illegal drugs would disappear tomorrow if the people themselves did not want to spend the money to use those drugs. It is a war. It is a big war. I take you back to China about the time of World War II when the whole country was about to fall apart because of the opium epidemic. Now, the Chinese dealt with it in a way that we would never seek to see happen in this country. They literally would kill all the drug addicts. And so they eliminated the problem by killing anybody. There's countries in the world today that will execute you on the first time you're caught with illegal drugs. That's not the way we operate in this country. We have freedoms, but with those freedoms comes abuse. And law enforcement is there to try to stem the tide of abuse, so you cut down on the amount of injuries and death and addictions that come to the people. So you do that with various tools you have, but those tools, the oversight from the people needs to come on hiring men and women as their sheriff and as their legislature and as those who pass the laws, that they pass the reasonable laws the people approve of.
We have a call. Caller, you're on the air. Make it quick.
I just have another question. Militarization of the Sheriff's Department and police, your position on that, and also data mining. If you fly over a field and somebody's growing marijuana and you didn't get a specific search warrant for that, will you use that against them? And it's not. What about checkpoints where, and I call it, they're sniffing their underwear. They're trying to find something. They're fishing. Where are you going? Where are you coming from? Let me check your papers, like Nazi Germany.
Okay, make it one question,
please.
Please.
Happen to find something. Is it okay just to question everybody at checkpoints to try to find something, or fly drones over to see if somebody's doing something illegal? And was not a great man who once said, "Those who are willing to sacrifice their liberty for security deserve neither liberty nor security"? Okay, thanks.
I think as we become a smaller world community, more and more the issue comes up: what personal freedoms have to be limited to secure the rights of everybody else? And that's a thorny question, because it gets into the idea, is there a time when you have to restrict somebody's liberty for the good and welfare of everybody? And I don't mind telling you, I think that's right in some cases. For instance, immigration. I don't think we should have wholesale open the borders, let whoever comes and goes. I think we need to have restrictions on immigration to protect this nation. That can come all the way down to the state and the local level. There needs to be certain laws that protect everybody. One of them is, for instance, if we said there's no speed limit, people can do whatever they want, you'd see the death rate it would go overnight, become horrendous, the known things. You have to have restrictions on people's liberty, not to be able to drive their car as fast as they want, where they want. You can apply that to drugs. You can apply it to speeding. You can apply it to DUI checkpoints, whatever you want. There are certain laws that must be there to ensure the welfare and safety of everybody.
Well, has the modern surveillance and warfare state grown in such a way, Sheriff Jim Hammond, that it causes you, as a Christian and a man acting in the constitutional office, does it cause you alarm?
It causes me alarm only when I see that there are abuses of the laws that are very thoughtfully put before the people, and the people accept them based on who they send up there to make those laws. And then we see that law might be abused. For instance, you go back to the IRS. We know right now there's been horrible abuses of the IRS in who they were targeting in the last few years. That's an abuse that needs to be dealt with. So you don't look at just the IRS. You look at abuses within these individuals, whether it's police, whether it's the IRS, whatever agency is. If they're abusing, they need to be taken to task.
When county sheriff's deputies, Jim Hammond, make a stop or an arrest, are they largely enforcing county ordinance, state law, or federal statute?
Well, there's no county ordinances. Counties can't pass ordinances. Counties operate on state law only. Cities can have ordinances. So in the sheriff's department, anything my men do to be legal, it has to apply under a state law. So what we do in carrying out our job as sheriff, I demand that my officers follow what the state law says. If I detect abuses among my own people, I deal with them. We have disciplinary procedures there. If we see abuses among federal government or other agencies, we have certain avenues to report that to see that it's dealt with. And I do think we need to remain vigilant with our federal government and our state government and our local ordinances and any elected position or any appointed law enforcement officer.
Well, anything else, Sheriff Hammond? I appreciate your time very much, talking with my listener and me here at the David Tulis Show.
I can just tell you that the bottom line for me as sheriff is that my job is to, to the best of my ability, protect the people of this county, sometimes from themselves and other times from those that would do harm to them, so that they could not pursue liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Those are things that are basic to our Constitution. We need to enforce them.
Well, this is David Tulis, and Sheriff Hammond, thank you for joining my listener and me here at the David Tulis Show. We are here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I wanted to we've been talking with Sheriff Jim Hammond, who says that his sheriff's department largely. Hold on, can you come back to the mic for a second? I've got another call. Maybe this is David Tulis. Caller, you're on the air. We have just a minute. Well, we don't have that caller. Again, thank you, Sheriff Hammond. This is David Tulis, and our show is here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Wanted to make sure that if you are not a member of Trade Bank of Chattanooga, that you join our station. Trade Bank is involved in bartering. We and it helps improve cash flow from among 400 local businesses, large and small, in every field. Learn more by calling Jürgen Mutz at 877-2202. This is David Tulis. Thanks for joining us. Hi, I'm David Tulis, inviting you to make the move with me 9 to 11 a.m. weekdays here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. The David Tulis Show, featuring Nuganomics.com for Chattanooga and beyond. 9 to 11 a.m. weekdays.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
Any way that you kill somebody when they're innocent and defenseless is detestable.
My biological mother was 7.5 months pregnant when she had a saline abortion, which was meant to burn me both inside and out. And the doctors have also said that I should be blind. And